Downstairs, lock up the deck. All right, yes. To avoid a fire, I have shut off both my generator and my main engines. Fans are clamoring with questions after Jake Anderson revealed a minute ago that he's working hard. Many people question whether he is truly all right given the reports circulating about his health and previous difficulties. Is there more to the story, or have the rumors of a relapse been verified? Jake's brief statement has aroused both interest and worry. Let's examine the potential causes of these rumors in more detail and learn the truth about Jake Anderson's private life. Jake Anderson was merely a young man pursuing a difficult ambition before to Deadliest catch, before the cameras, before the fame, before the drama of the open ocean. Jake, who was born on September 16, 1980, didn't have a lot of money growing up, but he had ambition. He rose through the ranks to become a seasoned fishing captain and Titan Explorer co-owner. He co-owned and led the FV saga prior to that. However, the majority of people are familiar with Jake from the popular Discovery Channel series. Deadliest Catch, fans have witnessed him develop from a beginner to a well-respected captain at sea since he joined in 2007. When he joined the FV Northwestern as a greenhorn under Captain Sig Hansen, his career as a crab fisherman began. It wasn't an easy first step into the Bering Sea. On May 15, 2007, he made his Deadliest Catch debut in the episode titled New Beginnings. The title couldn't have been more appropriate in retrospect. Jake worked hard. He continued climbing even if nothing came easily. He received a noteworthy promotion in 2012, becoming the Northwestern's deck supervisor. He also obtained 2 large licenses in the same year: the Master 100-ton Captain's license and the U.S. Coast Guard Mate 1,600-ton license. Now that he had those, Jake was prepared for more. And he took his biggest action to date in 2015. He rose to the position of FV Saga Captain. His life on the water entered a new chapter, and it was a momentous occasion. How the Deadliest Catch cost Jake Anderson the saga. Everything changed in 2023. The story of FV, Jake. All of a sudden, Anderson's livelihood, pride, and passion were for sale. Over the course of its 20-season run, Deadliest Catch has shown us that nothing is certain out on the Bering Sea. You're riding high 1 minute. After that, everything falls apart. Jake Anderson is the only one who is aware of that. Jake had put all of his energy into the saga. His emotions, his time, and his savings. He contributed to its construction. For years, he was its captain. Then the gut punch suddenly arrived. He was losing the boat. It was quick. Jake received the news right before the start of the Derby-style race and the reopening of the Red King crab fishery. He received a notice of repossession. It couldn't have come at a worse time. He was preparing for a huge haul 1 minute. Before long, he found himself stranded on the dock without a boat, a strategy, or a means of escape. It was like being at sea and lost. This time, though, it wasn't waves that threatened to submerge him. Everything else was the problem. In the meantime, Deadliest Catch was celebrating the 20th season, which was a significant turning point for the program. The stakes had never been higher, and the oceans were as cruel as ever. But the thing that affected many fans the most was Jake's personal struggle. Nobody anticipated it. Since 2007, Jake has been a part of the series. His growth, fall, rise, and struggle were all witnessed by the audience. However, the saga's demise gave his story a poignant undertone, serving as a reminder to everyone of how genuine this program can be. Wide-eyed and full of optimism, Jake Anderson set out on his adventure. As a greenhorn, Captain Sig Hansen led me onto the FV Northwestern. He rose through the ranks from deckhand to engineer, deck boss, captain, and finally part owner of his own ship by working hard and picking things up quickly. Jake was living the American dream until everything went wrong. Jake talked candidly about the drama behind the scenes in interviews conducted before to season 20. Fans were surprised by what he revealed. His business partner's legal troubles on the saga resulted in the boat's regaining possession. Everything he had created vanished in an instant. Jake spoke of his moment of discovery with obvious pain in his voice. On a Friday in August, I learned. He declared that everything was prepared for red crab fishing. Then things began to look bleak on September the 1st. After pausing, he continued. I lost my boat just before I was going fishing. As far as the legal side of things is concerned, we're still not sure exactly what my partner did. The consequences struck hard and quickly. Jake had gone from being the leader with the largest quota of king crabs to being left with nothing. In just a few days, he lost everything. Jake, however, remained. Rather, he contacted Captain Sig Hansen, whom he trusted, and Sig greeted him with open arms. Jake went back to the boat where it all started, the FV Northwestern. However, the situation was very different this time. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter and a reset. In retrospect, Jake Anderson remarks, having Sig, there was more to Hansen's support than words could convey. "Sig will definitely get in touch," Jake said. "We're near." The camaraderie between fishermen and fisherwomen is unique. Not just for Sig, but it's a really honorable profession. Even if we were enemies, I believe that any one of us would do it for the other. That sense of camaraderie was vital. However, Jake had no intention of remaining a guest on Northwestern indefinitely. He was ready for a fresh chapter after his time back where it all started. The Titan Explorer, a separate boat, presented that subsequent opportunity. The decision to join the Titan Explorer was a big change. Jake wasn't an owner this time. He was not making decisions. He had recently joined the team, and he owed no one anything. His problems, leadership style, and story were unknown to the crew. He had to start anew and prove himself. It was humbling to someone accustomed to leadership. Jake realized immediately that he needed to gain their trust quickly if he intended to proceed. The upcoming season in this field of work is never assured. Ego has no place here. You show up, perform your job, and hope that at the end of the season you're still in business. He acknowledged that the change wasn't simple. It was necessary, but it felt like a step down in many respects. He needed to swallow his pride, accept the offer, and make it worthwhile. Because captains are competitors first in the high-stress world of commercial crabbing. Everybody is rushing to meet their quota and secure their salary. However, Jake learned a lesson from losing the saga that went beyond wealth or prestige. It showed him that there is still a code of honor in a world full of ruthless people. And that code has a way of bringing people back together when things start to break apart. Jake Anderson is fighting for his life in Deadliest Catch Season 20, not just against the water, but also against everything he lost. The saga's legal quagmire hasn't been entirely cleared out yet. However, it is evident that Jake Anderson is far from done. It was more than simply getting back on the sea when he joined the Titan Explorer. Jake needed to prove something. He lost more than just a boat when he lost the saga. It damaged his pride, his reputation, and the persona he had worked so hard to develop over the years. He knew he had no room for error now that his new employers were observing everything he did. Jake immersed himself into the task, having gained almost 20 years of experience. He persevered through every obstacle, worked diligently, and maintained his focus. But catching crab wasn't the only goal. Gaining the trust of a new crew, the audience, and possibly even himself was the goal. Season 20 was an emotional roller coaster. Life at sea has never been sugar-coated by Deadliest Catch, and this season was no different. Fans were shocked to witness Captain Keith Coburn's horrific medical issue early on. However, the threat did not stop there. Once more, tragedy almost befell the Titan Explorer. A crab pot hit DeHaan Chino in the head during a hallway. He fell to the ground and screamed, "I can't feel my legs." Jake acted without thinking. If Season 20 demonstrated anything, it's that Jake Anderson has more strength left. It might be a different boat. Even though the crew is new, their hearts remain the same. Everything came to a halt when a crab pot smacked Chino in the head. In order to evaluate the damage, Jake, his team, and even one of the show's producers carefully took him inside. Concerned that he might have suffered a spinal damage, some viewers questioned the choice to relocate him. Fortunately, however, Chino healed and soon went back to work. Nevertheless, Jake remembered the moment. He dreamed of being a professional snowboarder before fishing ever came into his life. I was seriously injured at the end of that dream. A downward spiral into addiction ensued. Jake discovered sobriety and a new purpose on the sea with time, work, and support. However, the suffering didn't end there. He broke the devastating news that his sister had passed away from pneumonia at a young age in Season 5. Then the unimaginable occurred in Season 6. Jake found out that his father, who had been missing, had been discovered dead. Another setback came this season. Jake received a call from his wife while on one of the trips. A heart attack had claimed the life of Tom Brasser, a personal friend and former Saga crew member. The news was devastating. Jake was devastated. Jake was only 8,000 crabs short of his quota at the end of the season. The crew had difficulties at every stage as storms swept in and the pressure increased. Jake realized he couldn't push blindly after what had happened with Chino. The first priority was to be safety. A single poor choice could be fatal. Nevertheless, he persisted, and he and his team eventually succeeded. He retained his employment after they met the quota. The 20th season was anything from simple. Jake Anderson, however, hung on. He faced the obstacles, persevered through the storms, and never gave up. It was a well-earned comeback for those who had been following his journey for years. Jake Anderson's life was filled with misfortunes. Despite all of his accomplishments, Jake Anderson was engaged in a covert conflict, one he spent several years dealing with alone. When he eventually realized he couldn't win alone, he asked for assistance. Fans were initially taken aback, but they quickly came to the realization that everyone has unspoken challenges. They banded together to help him, which gave him the willpower to fight on. Jake overcame his near-death experience with drinking and substance abuse. Jake had an entirely different dream long before he even made an appearance on Deadliest Catch. His goal was to pursue a career as a skateboarder, but after suffering a severe injury that prevented him from competing at a high level, that dream came crashing down. It all began in 1999, he revealed. His infrequent use became a deadly spiral as a result of the injuries, which drove him further into addiction. Later, in an interview with the Skagit Valley Herald, he added, "I kind of gave up on everything." That was the turning point for Jake. He began abusing methamphetamines and prescription medicines in his early 20s. He wasn't the same even when his body recovered sufficiently to skate once more. He developed an addiction to Adderall in the hopes that it would help him focus and perform better, but it was ineffective. It simply made matters worse. He lost his sense of direction and his buddies. He eventually lost his house as well. Jake was homeless in his hometown of Anacortes, Washington, for 2 years. He remembered that there was nowhere to go. The humiliation of having to watch yourself stroll up and down the streets at 4 or 5 in the morning is beyond words. Those were terrible and lonely years. However, Jake made a choice that would alter everything shortly after turning 24. Seeking a new beginning, he relocated to Alaska from Anacortes. He got a job on a fishing boat and plunged headfirst into the harsh, merciless seafaring life. It was not a flawless recovery. Along the way, he relapsed, but eventually he got clean and enrolled in a formal rehabilitation program. According to reports, Jake Anderson has been clean since 2010. He has created a new life for himself, but it wasn't an easy journey. However, tragedy continued to haunt him even as he recovered. Jake received a call during the Bitter Tears episode of Deadliest Catch's 5th season. That made all the difference. He found out that his sister, Chelsea Anderson, had been taken to the hospital while he was at sea. She died shortly after from pneumonia-related complications. Throughout her life, Chelsea has struggled with health issues. She suffered from chronic discomfort after being diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 2. She also experienced seizures, abscesses, and a dependence on pharmaceutical drugs over time. She subsequently received a schizophrenia diagnosis. She had declined to see a doctor on the day of her death. Later, Jake blogged about it. "My sister was fighting with my mom about not having to go to the doctor's office before she passed away. I'm fine," she said. "My mom was in the waiting room when she passed away 20 minutes later." Chelsea was just 37. Jake was deeply saddened by her passing. Jake had yet another heartbreak just a year after losing his sister. He would go on another emotional roller coaster after receiving a phone call. Keith Anderson, Jake Anderson's father, departed his house in January 2010. In about 40 meters away, Anacortes will meet up with a friend in Arlington. He only brought a little cash with him, nothing else. Reports state that he had been battling depression. Keith, however, never returned home. Authorities discovered his pickup abandoned on a secluded Skagit County logging road a few weeks later. He was nowhere to be found, and there were no hints or answers. Although Jake clung to hope, the burden of ignorance grew heavier over time. Then, less than a mile from where Keith's truck had been discovered, a hiker discovered skeletal remains in the woods more than 2 years later. They were identified as Jake's dad. Days before an episode that featured Jake visiting the same location and still looking for answers aired, he received the call. The loss was made considerably more painful by the timing. Although the family at last experienced some closure, the anguish persisted in the wake of Keith Anderson's death at the age of 62. As Jake entered the high-stakes world of commercial fishing in 2007, he joined Deadliest Catch. His uncle, Nick Mavar, was the one who brought him into this world. Nick had experience as a deckhand on one of the first characters that viewers came to love on the show was the FV Northwestern, was born to love. He served as Jake's tutor, a pillar of support, and a guide through the tumultuous marine life. But then there was heartbreak once more. In a life already molded by tragedy, Nick Mayavar's death, like that of so many others close to Jake, was another personal loss. When Anderson first started on deck, Mavar assisted in guiding him. He was crucial in molding him into the captain and sailor he would become. Jake soon rose through the ranks and became the FY Northwestern's co-captain. Up until the 2000s and 20s, his uncle was a consistent feature on the show. Following a perforated appendix, which was exacerbated by a subsequent cancer diagnosis, Mavar quit Deadliest catch. He continued fishing even after he left reality TV. He stayed near the sea he loved, operating a salmon enterprise in Bristol Bay, Alaska. Then, on June 13, 2024, one of the deadliest catch catastrophes in history occurred. Mavar, Nick, was discovered dead in a Naknek, Alaska boatyard. He was transferred to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. It was initially referred to as a sudden medical episode. Anderson then clarified that his uncle suffered a heart attack while descending a dockside ladder. Nobody anticipated the strange accident. Mavar was just 59. Anderson sent a Facebook tribute to his uncle 2 days following his passing. Measure of the Man is a poignant poem that he presented. After assuming leadership of the FV saga, Jake Anderson brought in a man he had a great deal of faith in to assist with boat operations. Tom Brassard was a lifelong ship engineer, cutter, and welder. Tom has spent several years working on big marine equipment and yachts. He was Jake's best friend and right-hand man. They put a lot of effort into reconstructing the saga from the ground up. The floors, the stern, the bow, and even the restroom were all replaced. While the boat was anchored at sea in Season 20 of Deadliest Catch, Anderson received a call from his wife, Jenna. The tragic call was captured on video. "It's Tom," she declared. "He didn't make it. He just had a heart attack or something." Anderson halted, astonished and incredulous. His sorrow quickly gave way to rage. With his voice breaking, he questioned, "Why him?" The loss of the uncle who gave him his first chance and the friend who helped him build his dream were tragedies that left Jake Anderson shaken. The pain felt like a stab in the back. It was unbearable. In just 5 years, he had lost the people who mattered most to him. He was also afraid of life and death. There are so many others I could name. Why not them? Tom's death left a deep hole in Jake's heart. The two had spoken on the phone almost every night, even after Tom moved to the Philippines in his later years. Jake subsequently said that those difficult times gave him a new type of fortitude and faith. "I'm a religious guy," he said, "and that's always helped me get through." Despite his uncertainty about the future, he made an effort to move on. "Knowing that everything happens for a purpose, I continue to follow my heart. I simply keep working." He recovered after a few months and made a reappearance in all of the Deadliest Catch episodes. After making an emotional comeback, he quickly established himself as a mainstay of the program. He once again enthralled audiences with his extraordinary abilities. Things improved. He found the tranquility he sought in every day. He was no longer drowning in difficult circumstances. He had always envisioned this life, and he just wanted to savor it to the fullest now that it was occurring. There were numerous seasons and episodes of the Deadliest Catch show. Jake's outstanding performance caught the attention of everyone in attendance. He had obviously gained the hearts of many people, and his admirers saw only the positive side of him. Fans frequently expressed their sentiments on social media, stating that Jake was a Deadliest Catch celebrity who would always be remembered. However, not everyone agreed with Jake. Doubts about him were frequently expressed by critics and bystanders. They claimed they were unable to comprehend something about Jake. They implied that he was concealing something from his history, but they never stated what it was. As expected, fans fiercely retaliated. They stated the naysayers should be thankful to see such a remarkable reality star rather than trying to discredit him because they were only jealous of Jake's success. This carried on for a long until the truth slowly started to seep out. Things that the critics had alluded to gradually came to light, but fans stayed defensive, believing Jake was something special until ultimately a revelation broke the stillness. Their belief was crushed at that moment. Every piece of evidence that revealed the truth was correct. Every day that went by, the strain increased. There was no more faith in Jake after that. A few expressed regret for their harsh remarks. However, many people who witnessed the truth from afar were still in disbelief. By then, it was obvious that Jake was going to collapse like a house of cards, and he fell. In reality, what did they discover? Fans have been noticing Jake's face altering for a while. He didn't look like the person they once knew. Online rumors started to circulate regarding his deteriorating health. Fans expressed their opinions, stating that something didn't feel right and that they were keen to learn more. Some said that the trauma of losing loved ones was negatively affecting Jake's health. Others didn't buy that and suspected something else was going on. A fan once asserted that Jake had resumed substance use and that all of his claims of abstinence were false. Many agreed. No wonder he hasn't been at his best lately, they added. It became so bad that someone stated Jake looked like a cheap restaurant owner, wore false jewelry, and smelled like cigarettes and very strong cologne. Despite his vows of sobriety, everyone assumed he was using drugs once more, even though none of this was verified. Another fan, however, then stepped up to say that Jake had been completely sober for the past 15 years. It was not suspicious in any way. Jake has never defended these rumors in public. Despite the fact that no one has heard directly from him, many believe the accusations may be real since they claim he is scared to confront individuals whose trust he betrayed. Behind the scenes, Deadliest catches true story. Despite setbacks and losses, Jake returns to the water season after season. Deadliest Catch has provided us with compelling drama on the high seas for more than 20 seasons. However, the most serious issues might occasionally occur off the water. The history of the show has been tarnished by the significant legal troubles that a few of the cast and crew have had over the years. Captain Elliot Nee was one of the most talked-about names. Brave, audacious, and frequently at odds with his team and competitors. Good became a source of annoyance as well as a fan favorite. Then everything changed in season 11. Unexpectedly, Nee left the program and gave his first mate, Jeff Folk, command of the FV tail. A flurry of questions and rumors followed. Nye made a public statement shortly after. He tweeted in May 2015 that he had sought treatment for personal problems at the renowned rehabilitation facility, Passages Malibu. Sincerely, I had issues, he said. After 60 days in the program, he stated he had a fresh outlook, although rehabilitation is rarely a straight route. Nye returned to Instagram in 2017. He celebrated his 90-day clean streak by admitting that he had relapsed, but had recovered. His social media posts, which featured pictures of his outdoor equipment and pet bunnies, grew irregular and occasionally odd. He publicly attacked a Sportsman's Warehouse store in 2019 for reportedly refusing him a firearm purchase, claiming that the AR-10 was on layaway. His erratic public persona was further enhanced when his rage erupted into a protracted Facebook tirade. The door to the Deadliest Catch was not entirely closed, though. In a 2017 tweet, executive producer Decker Watson acknowledged that despite his best efforts, Nee was not able to return for season 13. Sadly, Nee's problems extended beyond drugs and outbursts on social media. His children's mother, Valerie Gunderson, served him with a restraining order in 2012. Gunderson detailed unsettling conduct in her petition, such as a violent outburst in which her niece burnt her clothes in the fireplace and smashed her television. She stated she was frightened niece could snap and feared for her safety. The restraining order, combined with his difficulties with substance abuse and erratic conduct, formed a picture of a man falling out of control, far from the skipper spectators once witnessed sailing the Bering Sea. Elliot Nee is currently largely out of the public eye. He occasionally appears online, but it's unclear if he will ever return to Deadliest Catch. The history of Jake Anderson. Anacortes, Washington is where Jake Anderson was born. From a young age, Jake learned the ups and downs of fishing, as he didn't back down as time passed. He delved farther into marine life. He was first exposed to the ocean as a child by his uncle, Brian Maver, and Jake became deeply in love with it as he grew older. Jake was fishing for salmon in Alaska's Bristol Bay when he was 17. He worked on a trailer processor by the age of 20, and at 25 he started pot fishing. Jake is also an accomplished and enthusiastic skateboarder. He even released his own signature shoe with DVS Shoes, who sponsored him. Signature footwear. His most notable accomplishment, however, was becoming a member of the reality TV program Deadliest Catch, which made him famous all over the world. Jake and his spouse, Jenna, are parents to 3 children together. They enjoy a calm life in a nice area near Seattle. He has stated that he had always aspired to be a good father and was immensely thankful to have the opportunity to fulfill his lifelong dreams. On April 29, 2014, his autobiography was made public. Coventry House Publishing is the publisher. It became a bestseller in just a few months. Many claim that Jake Anderson's life demonstrates that, despite adversity, anyone can achieve their objectives. Do you believe that Jake Anderson resumed his drug use? Is he deserving of all the venom directed at him? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe, like, and follow for more posts like this one. Please watch the other videos on your screen before leaving. Thank you for viewing,